The morning began with the kind of quiet that makes a hospital feel almost peaceful. The sun was shining through the long glass windows, painting soft golden lines on the shiny floors. The air smelled of clean soap, and every corner of the building looked calm and ordinary. Nurses walked in their crisp uniforms, their shoes making gentle tapping sounds on the polished tiles. Doctors moved quickly but quietly, checking charts and speaking in low voices, so they wouldn't disturb the patients who were resting. Officer Daniels entered through the side door of the hospital, with his partner, a loyal K9 named Rex. The tall glass doors opened with a soft whoosh, and the cool air from inside brushed against his face. Rex walked beside him proudly, his leash firm but relaxed in Daniel's hand. Rex wasn't just any dog. He was a trained canine who had worked with the team for several years. His shiny black fur reflected the morning light, and his sharp eyes missed nothing. They weren't there for anything unusual that day. It was just another routine check. Every week, Daniels and Rex came to the hospital to walk through the halls, greet the staff, and make sure everything was safe and secure. Most days were quiet and simple. Just friendly faces, small talk with nurses, and a calm walk through the building. That's exactly what Daniels expected this morning, as soon as they stepped into the lobby. Several staff members smiled and waved. Many of them knew Rex well. Some had even brought him treats on previous visits. "Good morning, Rex," one nurse called out softly. Rex wagged his tail in response, his ears flicking toward the friendly voice. He liked coming here. The hospital always smelled interesting to him, layers of scent stacked on top of each other like puzzle pieces only he could understand. Daniels checked in at the security desk. The guard on duty greeted him with a nod and handed him the visitor badge. Daniels clipped it to his shirt and gave Rex a gentle pat on the head. "Ready, boy?" he whispered. Rex's ears perked up and his tail wagged once. That was all the answer Daniels needed. Their first stop was the emergency wing. This was the busiest part of the hospital, even on quiet mornings. Nurses moved around like they were part of a well-practiced dance, checking monitors, taking notes, helping patients settle in. A soft beeping sound from the heart monitors filled the background like a quiet rhythm. Rex walked beside Daniels at a steady pace, calm but alert. Most patients smiled when they saw Rex. Some of them reached out a hand from their beds to wave at him. Rex never barked in hospital hallways. He knew this place was full of people who needed peace and rest. Daniels often joked that Rex had better manners than most humans, and it was true. He was gentle, disciplined, and smart. Everything a good canine should be. Daniels guided Rex through the next corridor, where the air felt a little cooler. The hospital had many wings, each one with its own feeling. Some smelled faintly of fresh flowers brought by visitors, while others carried the scent of medicines and cleaning products. Rex sniffed the air as they walked, taking in every detail. It wasn't unusual for him to do that. He was trained to notice changes, no matter how small. They passed by a group of nurses chatting softly at the corner. One of them, Maria, was a familiar face. She had short hair tucked neatly behind her ears and a warm smile that made patients feel safe. She had worked at the hospital for years and was known for being calm under pressure. When she saw Rex, her eyes lit up. "There's my favorite officer," she said cheerfully, leaning down to scratch Rex behind the ears. Rex leaned into her touch, clearly enjoying the attention. "You've got some fans here, huh?" Daniel said, smiling at his partner. "Always," Maria replied. "This place feels a little brighter when he visits." Daniels chuckled softly. "We're just doing our rounds. Everything seems quiet today." Maria nodded. "Let's hope it stays that way. We like peaceful days here." They continued down the hallway. It was lined with patient rooms, their doors half open, letting in strips of light from the hallway lamps. Some rooms were empty, freshly made with crisp white sheets. Others had quiet patients resting, their monitors softly humming. The peaceful silence felt comforting. Daniels loved this part of his job. Walking with Rex through quiet places gave him time to observe and think. He trusted Rex more than anyone else on his team. Over the years, the dog had proven again and again that his instincts were razor sharp. He could sense things long before anyone else noticed them. That was why Daniels always paid attention when Rex reacted to something. Even the smallest sign could mean something important. Rex suddenly paused near a window and sniffed the air deeply. Daniels stopped too, watching carefully. The dog tilted his head, ears twitching. For a moment, Daniels thought maybe Rex had caught the scent of one of the nurse's breakfast sandwiches that had happened before. But after a brief sniff, Rex moved on, tail wagging lightly. Daniels smiled to himself. "You're just making sure everyone's on their toes, huh?" he whispered. They reached the end of the hallway and turned toward the east wing. This part of the hospital was quieter. Fewer people walked these halls during the early morning hours. The lights were softer, and the hum of machines felt distant. Some patients here were recovering from surgeries and needed peace. Others were in observation rooms that were used less often. Daniels walked slower here, his boots making soft sounds against the smooth floor. Rex's paws barely made a sound at all. The calmness of this wing always made Daniels feel like he should lower his voice, even when no one was talking. It was a space built for stillness. As they walked, Rex's posture changed ever so slightly. It was subtle, the way his ears stood taller, the way his nose tilted toward the air. Daniels noticed right away. He knew Rex's body language as well as his own. It wasn't a sign of alarm, not yet. Just interest. Curiosity. Daniels followed his gaze toward the end of the hallway. There, behind a curtain near one of the unused rooms, a faint shadow shifted slightly. It might have been just the breeze from the ventilation, or maybe a nurse adjusting equipment. In a hospital, movement wasn't unusual, but the way Rex focused on it, steady, unblinking, made Daniels pay attention. He didn't say anything. There was no reason to. They were just doing a regular sweep, and there was nothing wrong with being careful. Rex sniffed the air again, slow and deep, his nose twitching slightly. Then he looked back at Daniels as if to say, "I noticed something." Daniels nodded once, silently acknowledging the dog. They moved closer, step by step. The curtain wasn't completely drawn, just enough to cover whatever was behind it. The sound of soft footsteps and beeping monitors filled the space around them. Daniels could hear Maria's voice faintly at the other end of the hallway as she chatted with another nurse. Everything still felt normal. But Daniels trusted Rex. He didn't pull the curtain. Not yet. Instead, he stopped a few feet away and let Rex do what he did best: observe, smell, and sense. Rex lowered his head slightly, sniffing near the bottom edge of the curtain where the air was cooler. His tail gave a slow, thoughtful wag. Daniel's mind stayed calm. He had done this many times before. Hospitals had many smells, many sounds, and many movements. Not everything Rex noticed turned into something big. Sometimes it was just an empty room with a strange scent, like spilled sanitizer or old linen. Sometimes it was nothing at all. But sometimes it wasn't. Rex's nose twitched again. His ears flicked once more. Daniels couldn't tell exactly what the dog had found, but he knew that this wasn't just random curiosity anymore. Rex had locked onto something. For a moment, time felt like it slowed down. The hallway was still, almost too still. A light breeze from the air conditioning moved the curtain slightly, revealing just a sliver of what was behind it, though not enough to see clearly. Daniels gently patted Rex's shoulder. "Easy, boy," he whispered, keeping his voice calm and low. Rex didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just stared. Behind them, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Maria approached, holding a clipboard. She saw Daniel standing near the curtain with Rex focused and alert. She tilted her head slightly, curious. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly. Daniels nodded slowly, still watching Rex. He picked up something. Could be nothing. Maria glanced at the curtain. For the first time, a small knot of unease settled in her stomach. She had worked here long enough to know that Rex didn't react for no reason. Rex stepped a little closer, nose near the bottom edge again, inhaling carefully. Daniels followed, keeping a steady hand on the leash. The curtain fluttered slightly, and a faint scent, something neither strong nor familiar, drifted through the air. Daniels couldn't identify it, but Rex clearly could. His tail stopped wagging, and his stance grew firm. Daniels didn't need any words to understand. Something was behind that curtain. Something that shouldn't be ignored. And although the hospital was still wrapped in morning calm, something unseen was quietly waiting. A small mystery that Rex had just begun to uncover. Rex stood still, every part of his body focused. His ears pointed forward, his tail lowered a little, and his sharp eyes stared at the curtain as if it was the most important thing in the world. He didn't bark or growl. He didn't need to. His silence spoke louder than any sound. Officer Daniels knew exactly what that meant. For a moment, Daniels didn't move. The hallway around them was quiet, except for the soft beeping of monitors coming from the nearby rooms. The early sunlight, coming through the windows, painted thin lines on the floor, and Rex stood right in the middle of it, looking like a statue. Daniels had learned over the years that when Rex behaved like this, something was definitely out of place. Maria, who was standing a few feet away, shifted her weight nervously. She glanced at the curtain, then back at Daniels. "He smells something, doesn't he?" she whispered. Daniels nodded slowly. "Yes, I've seen this look before." Her fingers tightened on the clipboard she was holding. Maria wasn't a fearful person. She had faced many unexpected situations in her years at the hospital, but something about a dog reacting to something unseen always gave her a strange feeling. It was like Rex could sense things people couldn't. Daniels took a careful step closer, his boots making a soft sound on the polished floor. Rex moved with him, steady and alert, his nose twitching with every breath. Daniels leaned slightly, just enough to peek at the edge of the curtain without touching it. The fabric moved slightly with the airflow from the vents, but he couldn't see anything clearly. Maria followed him slowly, keeping her voice quiet. "That room hasn't been used in a while," she said softly. "It's supposed to be empty. We only store a few things in there, nothing unusual." Daniels kept his eyes on Rex. "If it's empty," he replied calmly, "then we'll find out soon enough." Rex took another deep breath, lowering his head a little closer to the floor. His paws made the faintest sound as he shifted forward. Daniels could feel the quiet tension building. It wasn't fear exactly, more like the feeling you get right before opening a door, when you don't know what's behind it. He gently held Rex's leash a little shorter, not to pull him back, but to stay in full control. Rex wasn't the kind of dog to rush in. He was careful, trained, and smart. Daniels trusted him completely. Maria looked down the hallway. It was still empty. Most nurses were busy in the other wings, and only a few distant voices echoed softly. It made the small corner they were standing in feel even quieter, as if the world had shrunk down to just them, Rex, and that curtain. Daniels took a small breath and gave Rex a light signal with his hand. The dog stepped forward slowly, his nose brushing the air near the curtain's edge. His breathing changed. It was deeper now. Focused. Maria felt a small chill, even though the hallway wasn't cold. She had seen Rex during his regular walks many times. He was always friendly, calm, and relaxed. But this was different. This was serious. Daniel spoke softly, more to himself than to anyone else. Whatever it is, he's locked onto it. Maria swallowed and whispered, "Do you think it's dangerous?" Daniels didn't answer right away. He didn't like to make guesses. Rex's job was to alert, and his job was to understand what that alert meant. A faint sound came from behind the curtain, not loud, not clear, just a soft rustling, like something brushing lightly against the floor. It might have been a piece of equipment or the air conditioning, or maybe nothing at all. But to Rex, it was something. Maria's eyes widened slightly. She glanced at Daniels, waiting for him to react. Daniels didn't flinch. He had faced many unpredictable moments during patrols, and staying calm was something that had become second nature to him. He lowered his voice. "It's okay. Stay calm. We'll check it carefully." Maria nodded slowly. She stepped back a little to give Rex and Daniel space. Her heart was beating faster than before, even though she told herself there was probably nothing to worry about. Hospitals were full of odd sounds. Things moved, machines clicked, curtains shifted. That was normal. But this didn't feel like just another ordinary sound. Rex took another careful step closer and sniffed the bottom of the curtain. His tail was completely still now. Daniels crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to Rex's level. From here, he could see the faint shadow behind the fabric, something small, maybe on the floor. He couldn't make out the shape, but it wasn't part of the wall or the furniture. He leaned closer, narrowing his eyes. "There's something back there," he whispered. Maria took a careful breath. "Do you want me to call someone?" "Not yet," Daniels replied gently. "Let's see first." Rex shifted again, lowering his head closer to the ground. His ears flicked once. Daniels could almost feel the dog's focus, like a line of energy pulling toward the curtain. He carefully reached out one hand and touched the edge of the fabric. The material was cool and smooth beneath his fingers. Slowly, he lifted it just a few inches, enough to let more air pass through. Rex sniffed again, deeper this time, his nose twitching faster. And then it happened. Rex froze in place, every muscle tight but controlled. Daniels had seen that exact reaction many times before. It was Rex's way of saying, "Yes, something is here." Maria instinctively stepped a little closer to see, but Daniels raised a hand to keep her back. Not because he thought it was dangerous, just because Rex needed space to work. The rustling sound came again, clearer this time, though still soft. Daniels looked under the edge of the curtain, but couldn't see the source yet. He straightened up slowly. "We're not alone in this room," he said quietly, more to Rex than to Maria. Maria felt her throat tighten. "But that room was locked this morning," she whispered. Daniels gave her a calm, steady look. "Doors don't always stop things," he said softly. "But it could be something simple." She nodded, but her fingers were gripping the clipboard, so tightly now that her knuckles had gone pale. Rex's breathing grew slower, but more focused. Daniels gently took a small step closer to the curtain. The hallway light spilled in just enough to make the edge of the fabric glow faintly. Daniels could hear the faint hum of a machine in a nearby room, a distant cough from a patient, the faint roll of a cart down the main hall. But around the curtain, everything felt strangely still. Maria glanced at the nurse station at the far end of the hallway. She thought about calling another nurse or security guard, but decided against it for the moment. She trusted Daniels and Rex. If something needed to be done, they would handle it calmly. Rex suddenly took a deeper breath through his nose, the way he did when he was confirming a scent. Daniels didn't need words. He could feel it. Something about this wasn't just a passing smell. Rex had found something that didn't belong here. "Okay, boy," Daniels whispered. "Easy now." Rex stayed focused, one paw slightly ahead of the other. Daniels gently moved the curtain aside just a little more. Light spilled into the corner of the room, but not enough to reveal everything. Maria leaned forward slightly, curiosity and worry mixing inside her. She whispered, "What do you see?" "Not sure yet," Daniels murmured back. But he's not wrong. The faint scent that Rex had picked up was now something Daniels could sense too, not with the same sharpness, but enough to notice it was different. It wasn't bad, just unfamiliar. A scent that didn't match the clean, soapy air of the hospital. Rex gave a short huff of breath, like he was confirming his find. His tail remained low, but steady. Maria looked nervously toward the nearby rooms, wondering if anyone else had noticed what was happening. But everyone else was busy with their regular morning routines. They had no idea that down this quiet hallway, something unusual was slowly being uncovered. Daniels finally spoke again, low and steady. "Whatever it is, it's small. But it's here. And it shouldn't be." Maria felt a shiver run down her arms. It wasn't from fear exactly. It was the strange feeling of standing at the edge of something you can't quite see yet. Rex didn't move his gaze away from the curtain for even a second. His entire body was a silent signal that told Daniels to trust him. Daniels gently rested his hand on Rex's back. "Good boy," he whispered. "We'll find it." The air around them felt thicker now, as if even the hospital itself was holding its breath. Maria leaned against the wall slightly, her heart beating steadily but faster than before. The sound of the curtain shifting in the light breeze felt louder than it should have been. Daniels took one more step closer and lifted the curtain slowly, carefully. He didn't rush. He didn't pull it wide open. In situations like this, patience mattered, and he had learned to trust the silence before the truth revealed itself. The shadow behind the curtain was clearer now, though not yet fully visible. Maria bit her lip lightly, waiting. Rex stood firm, his nose guiding them toward whatever lay hidden. What had begun as a calm and quiet morning was no longer just another routine patrol. Something small but important had quietly stepped into their path. And Rex, with his sharp instincts, had been the first to sense it. Neither Maria nor Daniels could see everything yet, but deep down, both of them felt it. Whatever was behind that curtain was about to turn their ordinary morning into something unforgettable. Daniels held the curtain between his fingers and lifted it a little higher. The thin fabric moved slowly, brushing softly against the air as it rose. A narrow strip of light fell into the room, cutting through the dimness like a gentle line. Rex stood completely still by his side, his sharp eyes locked on the shadow that was now a little clearer. Maria took a quiet step closer, though she stayed a few feet behind Daniels. She didn't want to get in the way of Rex. She trusted the dog's instincts, but her heart was beating a little faster now. Everything about this moment felt delicate, like a glass ball balanced on a thin thread. One wrong move, and the stillness could break. Daniels leaned forward just a little. Inside the room, near the far corner, something sat against the wall. It wasn't large, but it was enough to catch his eye immediately. The soft hospital light from the hallway barely reached it, but the shape was clear. A small bag tucked behind the curtain, hidden where most people wouldn't notice it. He didn't touch it yet. He just stared, letting his mind take in the details. The bag wasn't part of the usual hospital supplies. It didn't have any labels or logos. It looked like something someone might carry from outside. And here it was, placed behind a curtain in a quiet corner where no one usually went. Rex lowered his nose closer to the floor. He sniffed slowly, breathing through his nose in that careful, trained way that Daniels knew so well. The dog gave a tiny huff, not a bark, just a soft sound that told Daniels, yes, this is it. Maria's eyes widened slightly as she caught sight of the bag. She whispered, That's not supposed to be here. We don't keep any personal things in this wing. Only clean medical equipment and linen." Daniels nodded but didn't look away from the bag. "I figured," he said softly. He slowly knelt down, keeping one hand on Rex's leash. Rex moved with him, lowering his head, his nose pointing directly at the bag now. Daniels didn't need words. This was exactly the kind of moment where calm thinking mattered. From where he knelt, Daniels could see the bag more clearly. It was an ordinary-looking duffel, light brown in color, with a zipper running across the top. The fabric was slightly wrinkled, like it had been carried around a lot. It didn't look heavy, but it also didn't look like something that had been forgotten accidentally. It looked placed. Daniels reached out one hand slowly, but before he even got close, Rex's nose twitched quickly. The dog sniffed the air above the bag, then gave another low huff, his ears flicking forward. Daniels stopped his hand and took a small step back. Something inside. Daniels murmured. Maria pressed the clipboard gently against her chest, almost hugging it. Her eyes followed every movement carefully. "Do you think it's dangerous?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniels didn't answer right away. He studied Rex's reaction again. If Rex had sensed something unsafe, his posture would have changed sharply. But right now, Rex was focused, alert but not alarmed. Daniels understood the difference. "I don't think so," he finally said softly. "But it's definitely not supposed to be here." Maria took another small step closer, curiosity slowly pushing past her nervousness. "Should I call security?" she asked. "Not yet," Daniels replied calmly. "Let's look a little closer first. If it's just someone's misplaced stuff, we don't want to make a scene. But we'll be careful." Rex moved a little nearer to the bag, his nose almost touching it now. He sniffed carefully, slowly moving his head from side to side. Daniels could almost see the gears turning in the dog's mind. Every scent meant something different to him. Daniels gently pushed the curtain all the way open now, letting the light fill the small corner. The bag sat quietly on the floor, next to a small chair. It looked completely ordinary, which somehow made it feel even stranger. Maria's eyes moved between the bag and Daniels. "No one comes here this early," she whispered. "Especially not in this wing. It's usually empty in the mornings. Who would leave something like that here?" Daniels didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing. Bags like that didn't end up in quiet hospital corners by accident. Rex gave another soft sniff, then lifted his head slightly. His ears tilted back for a moment, then forward again. It was a subtle shift, but Daniels recognized it. It meant Rex had caught more than one scent. Daniels slowly unhooked a small flashlight from his belt and switched it on. A narrow beam of light fell on the bag, making its shape stand out clearly. There was a small tear near one of the straps, not fresh, but noticeable. The zipper was closed. No name tag, nothing. He crouched lower, careful not to touch the bag yet. Rex sniffed the air again, more firmly this time. Daniels noticed the dog's nose paws slightly near one side of the bag, like he had found the strongest scent there. Maria finally broke the silence again. What if someone lost it? Daniels shook his head slowly. If they lost it, they'd come looking. This bag was put here on purpose. Someone didn't want it in plain sight. She bit her lip lightly, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and unease. The hospital always felt predictable to her, routine, structured, clean. But this was out of place. Daniels adjusted the flashlight slightly, angling the light closer to the zipper. He didn't open it yet. Instead, he spoke softly to Rex. "What do you think, boy?" Rex didn't bark or wag his tail. He just stood firm, focused on the same spot. His nose told him more than any human could see. Daniels trusted that Maria glanced toward the hallway, half expecting someone else to walk by. But no one did. The wing was quiet. The world outside this curtain felt far away, like everything had narrowed down to this one corner. This one quiet moment, Daniels finally decided to take a closer look. He reached out slowly, carefully, and touched the side of the bag with his gloved hand. It didn't feel too heavy, but there was something solid inside. The fabric crinkled softly beneath his fingers. Rex's ears flicked again, but he didn't step back. Daniels took that as a sign that it was safe to continue. He gently pulled the bag toward him a few inches, making the zipper face upward. The bag slid smoothly across the floor, leaving a faint mark on the shiny surface. Maria held her breath without even realizing it. Daniels kept his movements slow. He slowly began to open the zipper just enough to look inside, keeping his flashlight steady. The sound of the zipper was soft but clear, like a whisper cutting through the quiet. Inside, he could see the edge of several small packages wrapped neatly in plastic. They were medical supplies. They didn't belong here. Maria's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. Daniels didn't answer. He was still trying to understand the sight himself. He moved the flashlight a little closer. Some of the packages were labeled, others were not. But what caught his attention wasn't just what was inside. It was how carefully everything had been placed. This wasn't something someone dropped. It had been hidden. Rex sniffed the open bag again, taking in the scent of what was inside. He gave a small but clear signal, the kind he gave when he found something important during their work. Daniels recognized it immediately. Maria took a step closer now, unable to look away. Her heartbeat thumped softly in her ears. She felt like she was part of a moment that had quietly been waiting to be discovered. Daniels closed the zipper again gently, not wanting to disturb anything. He looked at Rex, then at Maria. "This doesn't belong here," he said quietly. Maria nodded, her face pale but calm. "Who could have done this?" she whispered. "That's the question," Daniels replied softly. For a long moment, the three of them stood in silence. The hallway beyond the curtain felt far away, as though the air inside this small space was heavier. Even the sound of the air conditioning seemed quieter. Rex tilted his head, his gaze fixed on the bag like it was a puzzle he had already solved. Daniels didn't know all the answers yet, but he trusted Rex completely. The dog had just uncovered something no one else had noticed. Maria finally spoke again, her voice soft but steady. "Should we call the supervisor?" "Yes," Daniels replied. "And security, too. We need to handle this carefully." She nodded, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for her phone. Even though there had been no loud noise, no alarm, no danger, the tension was real, quiet but heavy. Daniels gently placed his hand on Rex's head. "Good boy," he whispered. The dog blinked slowly, his focus unwavering. This wasn't just a simple routine check anymore. This was a turning point. Someone had hidden something inside the hospital, something Rex had found by instinct alone. Maria's calm morning had changed in an instant. Daniels knew this moment would lead to answers, but it would also lead to questions. Questions about who had left that bag and why Rex sat down beside the bag, his ears still perked up as if he was guarding it. Maria stood behind Daniels, still watching the bag like it might reveal its secrets at any moment. The air around them stayed quiet. No one else in the hospital knew what had just been discovered behind that simple curtain. But for Daniels, Maria, and Rex, this morning had just taken a sharp turn away from ordinary. Maria moved quickly but quietly toward the nurse's station at the end of the hallway. She didn't want to alarm anyone, but she also knew this was no ordinary situation. She pressed a button on the phone and made a calm, low call to the hospital's security team. Her voice stayed steady, but inside, her heart was racing. Back near the curtain, Daniels stayed with Rex. The bag was now fully in the open, resting near the wall under the warm glow of the hallway lights. Rex sat calmly beside it, his eyes sharp, ears tilted forward. His tail rested flat against the floor, showing how focused he was. Daniels had seen Rex behave this way only when something truly important had been found. He didn't touch the bag again. Instead, he kept his distance and let Rex do what he did best, observe, and protect. Daniels trusted him completely. Over the years, this partnership had been built on hundreds of moments just like this. Quiet, careful, and meaningful. Within a few minutes, Maria returned, followed by 2 security officers. They walked quickly but quietly, their footsteps soft on the polished floor. One of them, Officer Green, was someone Daniels knew well. Green stopped a few feet away and lowered his voice. "What's going on, Daniels?" Daniels pointed gently toward the bag. "Rex picked up something. We found this behind the curtain. It wasn't here before. It doesn't belong to the hospital." Green crouched slightly to get a closer look. "Anyone touch it?" "Just me," Daniels answered. "I moved it a little to check. It's closed and looks carefully placed. Rex is signaling it's important." Green nodded slowly, understanding immediately. "Good boy," he said softly to Rex, who gave a short, quiet huff in response. Maria stood to the side, holding her clipboard tightly. She had seen many things in her years at the hospital, but this felt different. The air around them felt heavy, as if the hallway itself was holding its breath. Green turned to Maria. "Anyone been in this wing recently?" She shook her head. "Not really. The rooms here are usually empty in the mornings. I was just doing my rounds when Officer Daniels and Rex came by. It's usually quiet." Green glanced at Daniels. "Any idea what's inside?" Daniels shook his head. "Not exactly. I opened it just enough to see some packages inside, but I didn't touch or move them. It's too carefully hidden to be accidental." Green nodded. "Good call. We'll handle it carefully. Let's keep things calm. No reason to cause panic." Rex shifted slightly, his ears flicking. Daniels immediately noticed. It was a small movement, but it told him something. Rex could sense people approaching from the far end of the hallway even before they were visible. A moment later, a hospital supervisor, Miss Parker, appeared around the corner, walking quickly but with controlled steps. She was a tall woman with a calm presence, someone who had dealt with emergencies many times before. "What's happening here?" she asked softly. Green explained the situation quickly and clearly. Parker's eyes rested on the bag as she listened. She didn't speak for a few seconds. Her face remained calm, but Daniels could tell she was processing every detail. "This wing is supposed to be empty," she said finally. "No personal belongings are stored here. This is serious." Maria nodded. "I walk this hallway every morning. It wasn't here yesterday." Daniels gently placed his hand on Rex's back. The dog stayed still, his gaze steady. Parker took a careful step closer to examine the bag from a distance. Green looked at Daniels. "You found it exactly like this?" "Behind the curtain," Daniels said. "Rex picked up the scent first. I followed his lead. It was hidden low, where most people wouldn't notice unless they got very close." Parker turned to Maria. "We need to make sure the area is clear. No patients or unnecessary staff should be here until we know more." Maria nodded quickly. "I'll make sure everyone stays in the other wing." The hallway slowly emptied as nurses quietly directed patients and visitors away without creating alarm. It was done smoothly, the kind of quiet, controlled movement hospitals were good at when something unexpected happened. Daniels and Rex stayed by the bag as security began setting up a small perimeter. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic. Just quiet steps, steady movements, and calm faces. Parker folded her arms and took a deep breath. "Whoever left this here wanted it to be unnoticed. That tells us something." Daniels nodded. "Yes, it's placed, not dropped." Green added, "We'll need to review the security cameras. This hallway has 2 at each end. If someone came through here, we'll see it." Parker agreed. "Good idea. Do it now." As Green left to check the security room, Parker stayed with Daniels. "Your dog did well," she said softly. Daniels gave a small smile and looked at Rex. He always does. Rex shifted slightly, his eyes still on the bag. He wasn't restless. He wasn't nervous. He was alert in that calm, sure way that made Daniels proud. Maria stood near the nurse's station, watching from a distance now. Her morning shift had started like any other, coffee, charts, soft music in the background. But now everything felt different. The hospital was still quiet, but it wasn't the same kind of quiet. It was the kind that comes before something important is revealed. A few minutes later, Green returned, carrying a tablet with security footage. "I've got the last hour pulled up," he said. They gathered around. The footage showed the empty hallway from early morning. The lights were dim then, with only the glow from the ceiling fixtures. People walked in and out of other wings, but this corridor remained empty. Then, about 5:30 a.m., a figure appeared at the far end of the hall. It was someone in plain clothes, not a hospital uniform. The person walked calmly, carrying the bag. They stopped right where Daniels and Rex were standing now. Parker narrowed her eyes. "Pause it there," she said softly. Green froze the image. It was blurry, but enough to see someone crouching down near the curtain. A few seconds later, the figure stood up and walked away. They placed it there, Daniels said quietly. Parker nodded slowly. And they did it early, before the morning shift picked up. Maria felt a small chill down her spine. "That means they knew when this wing would be empty," she whispered. Parker turned toward her. "Yes, this wasn't random." The footage continued for another minute before the person disappeared from the camera's view. There were no alarms, no unusual activity afterward. Just quiet hallways and morning light. Green lowered the tablet. "We'll enhance the image to get more details. But at least we know this wasn't an accident." Parker exhaled slowly. "Look, we'll contact the authorities to investigate properly. But this is already a big step." Daniels glanced at Rex again. The dog's ears were still up, but he looked calm now, almost as if he was satisfied that his job was done. Parker placed a hand on Maria's shoulder. "You did the right thing calling security. And Daniels, good instincts following your partner's lead." Daniels smiled faintly. "I just listened to him. He's the real star." Rex tilted his head slightly at the sound of his name, and for a brief moment, the tension lightened. Maria smiled softly too, feeling a quiet wave of relief even though everything wasn't solved yet. The bag was carefully collected by the proper team with all the right procedures. No loud noises, no panic, just quiet, careful steps. It was taken to a secure room for inspection. As the hallway slowly returned to its usual calm, Maria leaned against the wall near the nurse's station. "I'll never look at that curtain the same way again," she said softly. Daniels chuckled lightly. "Sometimes the quiet places hold the biggest surprises." Rex walked over to her and gently pressed his head against her hand. She let out a soft laugh and stroked his fur. "Thank you, Rex," she whispered. "You really are something special." Green returned after giving updates to Parker. "We'll check the rest of the building too, just in case. But I think this hallway is clear for now." Parker nodded. "Good. Keep it quiet. We don't want unnecessary worry." The staff returned slowly to their duties, moving through the hallways with a new sense of awareness. The hospital looked the same as it had that morning. Polished floors, soft lights, clean air, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Maria glanced at the empty space where the bag had been. It was strange how something so small could change the feeling of a place. Daniels clipped Rex's leash a little shorter and gave him a light pat. "Good work, partner," he said softly. Rex wagged his tail once, as if accepting the praise. As Daniels walked down the hallway with Rex, Parker and Green continued to talk quietly near the nurse's station. The mystery wasn't fully solved yet, but the important thing was clear. Something hidden had been discovered before it could cause any trouble. And it had all started with a dog's quiet instinct. Maria looked at Rex walking proudly beside Daniels and felt grateful. She knew she would remember this day for a long time. The morning that began as ordinary but slowly turned into something unexpected. The rest of the day at the hospital passed slowly, almost like time itself had decided to walk instead of run. The early morning tension still lingered in the air, like a quiet whisper everyone could feel but not quite explain. The curtains had been drawn back, the hallway cleared, and the bag carefully taken away. But the memory of that moment remained fresh in everyone's mind. Maria walked down the hallway a few hours later, this time with no clipboard clutched tightly to her chest. Her hands were relaxed at her sides, but her heart still carried the weight of the morning. She paused for a moment near the very spot where Rex had first stopped. The floor was spotless, just as it always was. The soft hum of machines filled the air, steady and familiar. But something about this hallway felt different now. It wasn't just a place people passed through. It had become a place where something hidden had been found, something that reminded everyone how quickly ordinary could turn into extraordinary. She glanced at the curtain, the same curtain that had fluttered softly in the morning breeze as Rex had stood so still, listening to something no one else could hear. Now it hung perfectly still, as if nothing unusual had ever happened. But Maria knew better. That quiet space had a story now, one she would never forget. As she stood there, footsteps echoed softly behind her. She turned to see Daniels walking toward her, Rex trotting happily at his side. The canine's tail wagged gently now, no longer stiff or alert. The work was done, the hallway was safe again, and Rex seemed to know it. Maria smiled softly. "There's the hero," she said, leaning down to scratch Rex behind the ears. Rex tilted his head and leaned into her hand, closing his eyes briefly as if enjoying the quiet moment. Daniel smiled, watching the two of them. "He likes you," he said, with a hint of warmth in his voice. Maria laughed softly. "I think I like him too. He scared me a little this morning, though. I've never seen him so focused before." "That's just him doing his job," Daniel said. "When Rex locks onto something, he doesn't give up. Not until he finds the truth." Maria nodded. She could still remember how still the hallway had been when Rex stopped near the curtain. It had been such a small moment, just a dog sniffing at the air, but everything that followed had changed the day for everyone. "They say dogs can sense things we can't," she said softly, looking down at Rex. Daniels nodded. "It's true. He picks up things long before I do. I've learned to trust his instincts more than anything else." Rex gave a small huff as if agreeing with Daniels. Maria laughed lightly, the sound echoing softly down the hallway. They began walking together toward the nurse's station. The hospital looked normal again. Clean floors, quiet rooms, nurses moving gently between patients. But there was a quiet buzz of conversation everywhere. Everyone knew about what had happened in this hallway that morning. It had spread not through loud talk, but through quiet whispers and surprised looks. "Did they find out anything yet?" Maria asked. Daniels nodded slowly. "The security team is still working on it. They're reviewing more camera footage and talking to staff. But at least now they have a clear timeline." Maria sighed softly. "I just can't believe someone would leave something here. Of all places, here." Daniels looked down at Rex. "People think hospitals are quiet, safe, unnoticed places. That's why they sometimes choose them. But Rex doesn't miss anything. That's why we're here." Maria nodded. "I'm glad he was." As they reached the nurse's station, Parker, the hospital supervisor, was standing with Green, going over a few papers. She looked up when she saw Daniels and Rex. Her face softened slightly. "There's my hero team," she said warmly. Rex wagged his tail, and Parker smiled. "You know, Daniels, this dog of yours just saved us from a very messy situation." "I can't thank you both enough," Daniels chuckled. "He's the real one to thank. I just follow him. Parker leaned down a little and gently patted Rex's head. Well, I think someone's getting an extra treat today, she said kindly. Maria smiled at that. It was nice to see everyone's faces light up again after the morning's tension. Even though the day had started with uncertainty, it was ending with relief and gratitude. Parker straightened up. We're increasing security in this wing, she said to Daniels. But honestly, without Rex, we might not have found that bag for days, if ever. Daniels nodded. That's why these sweeps matter. Most of the time they're quiet, but it only takes one moment to change everything. Green added, and it's always the quiet corners no one thinks about. That's where things hide. Maria looked toward the hallway again. Not anymore, she said softly. Not here. The rest of the afternoon passed in a calm but thoughtful rhythm. Patients were cared for, doctors made their rounds, and the sound of rolling carts echoed softly. But beneath it all was a shared sense of gratitude. Gratitude that something hidden had been found before it became something worse. Gratitude that a single dog's instinct had made all the difference. Later that evening, when the sun began to set and the golden light poured through the tall hospital windows, the security team and administration gathered briefly in the main lobby. They wanted to thank Daniels and Rex personally. The staff formed a small, warm circle. No big speeches, no microphones, just real, quiet appreciation. Parker stepped forward and smiled. Today could have gone very differently, she began. But thanks to Officer Daniels and our friend Rex, it didn't. Their quick action helped us uncover something that would have stayed hidden, and for that, we're grateful. The staff clapped softly, their faces filled with relief and pride. Rex wagged his tail, tilting his head at the sound of the applause. He didn't understand awards or speeches, but he understood warm voices, kind hands, and smiles. Parker knelt slightly and handed Rex a small ribbon with a gold star on it. This is for you, she said softly, clipping it gently to his collar. Maria, standing a few steps away, felt her heart warm at the sight. She had always admired the canine unit, but seeing it this close, living through a day like this, made her respect for them even deeper. Rex stood tall, the small gold star gleaming under the warm lights. Daniels gave him a gentle pat on the back. Well, buddy, he whispered, looks like you've earned your dinner tonight. The small gathering ended with laughter and smiles. It wasn't a loud celebration. It was quiet, genuine, and full of respect. Later, Maria found herself walking down the hallway once more, alone. She paused again in the same spot, right by the curtain. The evening light cast soft shadows on the floor, making everything glow in a golden hue. She let out a soft breath. It amazed her how something so simple, a dog pausing, sniffing, noticing, had led to so much. A whole day had changed because of that single moment. She thought about the people who had walked through this hallway. Earlier in the day, unaware of what was tucked away behind that curtain. She thought about how close they might have come to walking right past it, how easily it might have stayed hidden. But it hadn't, because Rex had sensed it. For Maria, that was more than just a lucky break. It was a reminder that sometimes the things that protect us aren't loud or obvious. Sometimes they come in quiet, loyal forms with forelegs and sharp noses. Down the hall, she heard the sound of Rex's paws approaching again. Daniels was finishing up his shift, and Rex walked proudly by his side. Maria turned and smiled as they came closer. "You're still here," Daniels said, smiling back. Maria nodded. "Just thinking about how different things might have been if you and Rex hadn't walked down this hallway today." Daniels gave a small nod. "I think about that a lot. It's why I trust him more than most people trust their eyes." Rex stopped beside her and looked up, as if he understood what they were talking about. Maria leaned down and gently stroked his fur. "You're a good boy," she whispered. The hallway was quiet again. Not the heavy kind of quiet from the morning, but the gentle, peaceful kind that comes after something difficult has passed. Parker appeared briefly at the far end of the hall to check on things one last time before heading home. She gave them a warm nod. "We'll have the full report tomorrow," she said. "But tonight, I hope everyone goes home knowing this. We're lucky to have each other. And we're lucky to have Rex." Daniels nodded. "We'll be here next week for the usual round." Parker smiled. "I'll make sure there's a treat waiting for him." Rex's tail wagged at the sound of her voice, as if he already understood the word treat. Everyone laughed softly, the sound warm and light. Maria stayed for a few more minutes, just standing there as the golden light slowly faded into a soft evening glow. She felt grateful, not just for the discovery, but for the quiet strength behind it. She knew she'd tell this story many times in the years to come, not as a scary story, but as a true one. A story about a morning that started like any other. A curtain in a quiet hallway, a dog that stopped to sniff, and how that one moment changed everything. As Daniels and Rex walked toward the exit, Maria watched them disappear around the corner. The hallway grew still again. But it wasn't an ordinary stillness anymore. It was the kind that carried a story in its silence. And that story, she knew, would never fade.